Go and share with somebody. Have them listen to James for 10 or 15 minutes. And you can take me out of it, just listen to James, because this calmness is needed so much right now, more than, even COVID and World War II and 2008. I think this year is going to be a turning point. We need to be more calm, and you do that so well, James.
We have to come from this place where we're clear and we're coming from, like you said, from the heart-centered place. Really,
it's beautiful.
That's a change. That is a change.
Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness.
Shout out to my sponsors, A Mind for All Seasons. Your brain is your greatest competitive edge, so why not optimize it? Just text OPTIMIZE to 72000, 72000 for instant access to 6 quick videos that help you think faster, remember more, and stay focused longer. A big thanks to Epic App, the 4-step storytelling system I use every day to connect and to convert. Try it free. Email me at stever1961@gmail.com. That's stevr1961@gmail.com, and I'll get you the free app. Doing Business with a Servant's Heart was just named top 6 in small business marketing. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I got a lot of energy today because that's what we're going to talk about. People will say, you got a ton of energy. I don't always do. And my guest will tell you that too. He's got energy every time I've met him, but we're human. We're going to have lack of energy. That's great, because you know when you have great energy. But before we get started and introduce our guest, here's our gratitude for today. Let's start this podcast with some great energy. You're not just capable, you're extraordinary. Extraordinary is an amazing energy word, because you could be good, you could be okay, but you all can and will be extraordinary. And we're going to talk about that. It's funny how those cards really fit into the podcast. Let's bring our guest on today. James, welcome to the show, part 2.
Thanks, Steve. Aloha, everyone. And so great to be with you again.
We had a great conversation for the show. I thought I should have recorded that, but we'll mimic that probably in a good direction. Energy, I mentioned that. How can that help us today with the world going on? What's happening?
One of the things to remember is that everything is energy. Everything is energy. We're affected by energy. Energy is moving around us. Just as an example, all right? So talking about energy. You know that in every breath you take, what you're unconsciously doing is you're actually drawing energy, free energy that's out there, that's available from the universe, and you're bringing it into your body. What would happen if all you did was put an intention behind it and says, every breath I take is life force energy that feeds, sustains, and helps me be who I am. And if we don't say anything for the rest of the podcast and you take just that away, you've changed your life in that way.
And it's simple. And everybody can do it.
And
there's no special skill set.
Yeah. And so, when I start to talk about energy, that's one of the places that we leave. And the thing about it is that because of their energy and to shift, and yeah, we can all agree that there's a lot of things that are not really, good. If you want to go good, bad, we can go good, bad, but there's a lot of things that are happening in the world that a lot of people may be disagreeing with right now or not in alignment with. Let's just put it that way. And when Steve and I were talking about it, it's just looking at that as so what do we do about that? Because we spend, and what you said, Steve, was about where everybody is and we're scrolling. So we're constantly looking at all the things that are happening around us, right? And in that moment, what you're doing is you're actually giving your energy, your precious life force energy, to whatever it is that you're paying attention to. So if you're paying attention to whatever, and I don't even want to go into that because we don't need to politicize any of that. So we're just going to kind of keep this neutral, right? But here's something to think about. Every time you react, and it doesn't really matter if it's external or internal, but I'm going to talk about it externally. Every time you react to something that's external of you, what you are doing on an energetic level is giving your energy to that thing. And if your life force energy is so precious, because it is, your life force energy is precious, would you become more discerning about how, when, and where you share it? That's just a question I'm just going to leave with you guys for a second.
Powerful question. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, I work in renewable energy. I think and there's plus and minus, there's positive energy and negative energy. Does this fit the same way with the life force energy?
It does. And the thing about it is that, we can look at that because that's the duality of our world, positive, negative, right? Night, day, dark, light, so we can, in that way, yes. And the reality is that in the end, it's still energy. So it comes back down to intention, right? Yeah. The Hawaiian shamans, right? The Kunas, right? Which that's my lineage, right? They understood energy on such a deep and profound level, right? That they could pray somebody to death and pray them back to life. They could make rain, call wind, right? Bring clouds, because they understood how energy moved. And here's the thing. In our own way, we all have that ability and we all have that power. And so I don't want to actually think about it as power, but just say ability and choice to be able to do that. And energy could be as simple as the words that you say to the people that are around you, the words that you use to describe the world, the words that you use to describe yourself. So I know that it feels like we're bouncing around, but here's a piece. When you think about yourself, think about the words that show up in your head and tell me if they're empowering or disempowering.
Hopefully empowering.
And really, I mean, this is an important question to ask, because if they're disempowering, right? If there's self-judgment, if there's criticism, if there's a piece inside that says that I'm not enough, that's literally what you're saying to yourself, but that's literally what your energy is communicating to the people and the places that are around you. So now we step back and we look at that and say, okay, the world's really, all these things that are really, really happening. And there's different ways to look at this. I can take everything that's happening and I can impart my emotion, and emotion is energy as well. So I can be angry, I can be sad, I can be frustrated, I can be demoralized and depressed because of all the things that are happening in the world. And what's happening as you're doing that is whatever it is that you're thinking about, you're actually feeding that all this energy. So if it's a situation that is depressing, or if the situation that's frustrating you or is angering you, then that negative energy, I'm going to call it negative energy, is actually feeding that. So to realize that and go, oh, wait a minute, then if my energy is so precious, how and where do I share it? And what am I sharing?
It's so powerful. This is so cool because, you talk to people and I hear this, you're in a room, even a Zoom room, whatever, you get that one know-it-all, answers all your, their energy's not positive. It stands up so fast. But when you talked about duality and the Kona, we have the ability to be Kona ourselves. When I've got that depressive, oh my God, I just lost that deal. Okay, I'm human. That happened. Do I feed that like, oh, I'm terrible. I'm a bad business person. I said the wrong things, or, oh, a bad thing happened, or let's say bad, a negative thing happened. Bring back my positive energy. What am I doing with that negative energy? Am I putting it away?
Well, you don't put it away. What you do is you're making a choice. You're looking at that. And
Choice.
so this is one of those pieces. So from a business standpoint, right? And here's a book, and I read this book years ago, and literally it changed my life. And the name of the book was called Mindset. And the woman's name was Dr. Carol Dweck, and she's a psychologist. I believe she's still teaching at Stanford University in California. And she came up with this understanding of looking at this for years and years and years. And she said, there's two groups of people. There's people that have a fixed mindset, and there's people that have an open or a positive mindset, right? So, what she boiled it down to is the way that we look at failure, because that's what you're talking about, right?
Yep, exactly.
One part of failure, which is a fixed mindset, says, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to try this again. I must not be good. I failed at whatever this is. Now, the growth mindset, she calls it a growth mindset. The growth mindset said, that didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. Let me see if I can figure out a different way. Now, stop for just a second and feel the energy of the two. I'm no good. Let me try a different way. Notice the shift. I'm going to do this again. I'm no good. I'm not good enough. Stop and check in with your body. Feel what that feels like.
Calm. You just calm me down.
And then the other side is, oh, wait a minute. This didn't work out the way that I wanted to. Let me focus on this and try again. So in the one, I'm not good enough, your energy goes like this. It literally contracts. In the other, where it says, let me try this again, there's this place that goes like this, and it goes, wow, the world has so many possibilities. Let me see what those possibilities are, right? And so energy, that's what we're looking at. So it's that way of reframing that. So as you go through the day, this is just a really easy way of doing this. Whatever happens, if you scroll and you see something on your phone or on your computer, right? For just a second, a split second, just go inside and go, this thing that I'm looking at, this news report, this whatever it is that you're looking at in this moment, and is that contracting my energy, or is it expanding my energy, or do I still feel neutral? And neutral is okay, right? If it's contracting if it feels contracting, in other words, if I feel sad, angry, whatever it is, those contracting energies, can I just stop and recognize that is, and then go, how can I change that in this moment?
It's beautiful.
And I say this, everybody, I make a joke because I say, okay, I keep this on my desktop, on my computer, right? Yet, if you go through your life, there are memories where there was joy. There was memories that there were happiness. There were times when you felt good about who you are. And for people that's not their way of thinking, there still can be, even if it's just a handful of times in your life where you felt that way. In this moment, can you bring one of those memories up? I see Steve smiling because then he already had it. He already has.
I've got, I get, marriage. Somebody wanted to marry me. Beautiful event. I got, email last week. Thank you for your help. You're incredible. Podcast, yeah. And you're funny because that negative energy, we'll just use that word. We push all that positive away. It's like, wait a minute. One bad thing happened to me, but I got 20 other great things. And we shouldn't put numbers. This is not a financial or, science thing.
Well,
But
it actually is science, and after you talk,
okay.
we'll talk about the science.
Yeah, well, let's do that, because what's interesting about all this is a business. And I think business and life, and you agree with this, they cross over all the time. We can't balance it. But one of my guests, and you're telling me this and reminding me, always said, forget his name, he said, be human. If something happens, you've got that, be human first, as long as you, quick as you can, then get out of it. And that's kind of what you're saying, because it's going to affect you somehow, but you stay in it for 5 seconds or 5 months. That's a huge difference, right?
That's what you did, and it comes down to choice, right?
Yeah, choice.
That's a choice that you're looking at, that 5 minutes or 5 months, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To recognize how that's moving, and you bring up a really good point, which is choice. I have a choice in every moment. How I do this, again, how I use my energy, what I focus my energy on, what I do with that, to be able to shift inside of that. But just recognizing the contraction and the expansion, or the contraction and the opening that's there, and to be able to go, well, I'm not, and here's a really important point: don't push it away and not feel it. The thing about it is to acknowledge it, because in the acknowledging is when it starts to shift. And then we talk about the science, because that's what we're going to talk about. I just remembered, so the science of it, right?
Yeah.
Our brains are actually hardwired to look for a worst case scenario. That's our survival strategy. The brain is actually wired that way. So you said it, think about the general, right? So here's the general. He has 10 platoons. He sends them all out on war, on maneuvers, right? So they all come out on maneuvers. They all come back. He's looking at the reports of all of his 10 battalions. 9 battalions were like split. They were like excellent, above average, right? One didn't work. One didn't come back. They didn't quite hit the numbers, right? Where's he spend all his time? On that one. Which brings us to another point. We never celebrate. We never celebrate what's happening. But the brain is wired to look for worst case scenario, because we live in a place, and our brains operate from this place of survival. In any moment, I could die, even though it's not a conscious thought. And the stress, and so me reacting to the things outside of me, even though I may not say it consciously, on a very deep and unconscious level, is that thing can change the world. That thing can change the world. If my world changes, then I may not survive. Then we start thinking about money and job, and now what they're doing is that what they're planting in our heads is food shortage. There's no food shortage, but they're planting food shortage in our heads right now, right?
Yeah.
Has it actually happened? No. Are people worried about it already? Yes. How amazing that our imaginations are like that. But from that place of the science of how our minds think, we are in some ways, unless we become very aware, predestined to look at the negative side of life. I realized this about 15 years ago. Nobody taught me how to be happy.
You just learn it, don't you, as you grow as a kid?
Hopefully you learn
True.
it.
Good point. Yes. Not everybody. No, that's true. That's why the world,
right,
part of the world the way it is.
And so now go back to those thoughts. Remember those, you can call them happy thoughts if you want to, but those times in your life where you felt good, those times in your life where there was joy, there was peace, there was this feeling of being connected and part of the world. Again, notice what your body feels when you do that. And here's a really crazy question. Wouldn't you want to walk through your day feeling this way all the time?
I'm in.
Exactly.
Got me in.
Right.
And it's interesting with the generals, real quick. What you tell that story, I'm a big sports guy. I think we talked about, but there's such a connection with that, because a good coach always is working with the athletes that they're struggling.
Exactly.
Tom Brady didn't need a lot of coaching, but the backup did, and the backups and whoever had a bad game, or that. I love that, because it's business wise too.
And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just to realize that that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because then it changes, because then we're looking at that and going, because here's a part of failure, right? I'm not doing this good enough, or how can I do this better? How can I
How
do
can I
this
do it
better?
better?
Right? As a successful business person, if you're in business, you're always looking at that. How can I do this better? Is it about profit? It can be, if that's the motivation. And yet, if profit is the result of the choices that I'm making, then it becomes about the choices that I'm making.
Yeah. Profit's just your scoreboard. I hate to use that word. It's the end result of what happens, because you can have a better culture and you can come in as an owner to your business with your 10 employees and be a better person, high energy, think good things.
Yeah.
And naturally, the income is going to increase, the profit is going to increase.
It is, because again, energy, what you're putting out into the world
Mhm.
is this part of doing business with a servant's heart, right? Is being of service, which means that when we share, we get in return. And so the idea of that sharing, yes, you would say that it's not that the service comes first and then the reward of that is the profit. They actually go like this, and they go hand in hand. So
Yeah.
I was just on a call this morning with a group of people, beautiful people that are doing some amazing work with in Africa, and they're helping NGOs there that are creating organizations, and one of the main things that they're looking at, because they want successful entrepreneurs and business people, but what they're working on before anything else is the mindset and where people are and how they're thinking. And so they brought me on as a guest to talk about that, and that's what we talked about. We talked about that in the way of being aware of what your inner environment feels like, not what the outer environment looks like, because the outer environment is going to be what it is, but what your inner environment, and to nurture and sustain that inner environment. And so then, if you're looking at that, then what is the energy that I'm holding on to?
Yeah.
What is the energy that I'm emitting? What is the energy that I want in return?
It's back to what you're in control of. You're in control of your inner stuff. I can't figure out what James does. You can't figure out what Steve does. We're just going to talk, and we talked before the show, and we're having an incredible podcast. He's just an incredible person. Love your spirit. Let's end with this, coming to the end, but we hear all the time, and I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. I'll come in and people will go, man, when you come into a room, the room lights up. That's something a lot of people want to achieve. Some people have achieved. Some people don't even care about. But the person that wants to achieve or maintain that, is the energy part of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And there's the most amazing video I think I've ever seen. I haven't seen it for a few years, but there's this video that was on the internet for a while, and there was this little girl, and she was about 4 years old, and she was standing on the countertop of the bathroom, and she was marching back and forth, and she was looking at herself in the mirror, and she says, "You're amazing. You're going to do everything that you need to." And the video goes on for about 2 minutes. And it's this little 4-year-old girl, and she's talking to herself, and I'm looking at that going, that's what I want, is to have that space. So as you're moving through your day, is to be able to go inside and go, wow, in this moment, where am I at? Can I go find that vision, that memory that I have of the time that I felt good? Be able to bring that in this moment and go, okay, from this place, now let me go do my day. Now let me see how everything changes.
We started with extraordinary with that card. You just finished it. Be extraordinaries. Go walk across that counter, look at that mirror. You're extraordinary. I know some people go too woo with it. I don't. It's goes in here, and we need to help our brains all the time.
The difference is you can keep it as long as you keep it conceptual. It would always be just a thought and an idea. It's when you connect it in, like we did for the last 20 minutes of coming back into what you're feeling inside. That's where the rubber hits the road, and that's when the change comes, because then you start recognizing where you are inside yourself, and that's when change happens.
It's beautiful. Let's end with this. Is there one person that you would just love to meet and sit down and have a conversation with? Could be many, but is there many pops in your head that's like, man, I'd love to, maybe it's the mindset author or, somebody that's really
Well, there's a couple of
changed
people
you.
that pop in my head, and they would be obvious choices. And I would say this, and I've never thought about it this way before. I would love to be able to talk to my grandmother. I knew her when I was young, but when I was 4 years old, she had a stroke, and she lost her ability to speak because the left side of her body got paralyzed. And she was such an amazing woman. And I know because I've been able to connect to her energetically in the afterlife and realize who she was. But I would love to have had a conversation with her where I could have pick her brain about what she knew, not only about my culture, but about energy and how she moved and shifted through the world. So yeah, it would be my grandmother.
Beautiful. And a question popped up. We got a minute here. If I'm going to Hawaii or people listening going to Hawaii, what's one food you suggest they should try? I know you have, I think last time we asked, there was a ton of it, but what's one thing that they should just give it a shot?
I work on the thing that pops into my head, right? So I would say shaved ice.
Nice. Okay.
It's a fun food. And it's very unique to Hawaii. And for those of you who don't know it, they take a block of ice and they literally have they shave it like a big food processor, but they have it and they shave and it builds up into a cup and they pack it down in there and then they pour syrup all over the top of it. And then now they've got really fancy, so they'll do that and then they'll put ice cream on top of it and then you can sprinkles. But it really is a food that is unique to Hawaii. And I think it's something that's universal because if I said poke or musubi or poi, and most people don't like poi, but that's like an acquired taste. But I think we all, on some level, have a sweet tooth. And so I would say shaved ice would be the thing that I would tell you to try.
It's been a while since I've been in Hawaii, but it's much different in Hawaii than it is in the States. I know that for a fact because people have told me it's night and day. And that's what a great one. I love that. Well, James, thank you for being just an incredible guest and just having this great, you're so humble and really want to serve. You truly have a servant's heart. I know people listening want to connect with you. How can they best do that?
Yeah, listen, if you haven't found out that I love to talk, so I will talk to anybody for 30 minutes. So if there's something that's going on in your world, and if there's, I look at it like this. Sometimes there's things that we can't see, and having an outside pair of eyes or another's perspective can be really helpful. And so if I could be that other perspective for you, that I would be honored to do that. And there's going to be things in the show notes, but if you reach out to James at jameskawainui.com, that's me directly. You don't go through any filters and just say, hey, I want to have a conversation. And I'll say, let's do it.
An audience, I'll put it in the show notes. And I love this guy. We haven't talked for a few months and we just jump right back into it. He just teaches me a lot. I'm going to do you guys a favor. Do you have a book, James? You do have a book, right?
Well, I have a book. I will tell you, and since the last time we spoke, it's been through the second manuscript assessment. I am finishing the edits now. It's going to go to the editor shortly. I really want this book out this year, and the book is going to be on Ho'oponopono, and it says Ho'oponopono, a path to healing in a fractured world.
Okay, so we'll do this then. First 5 people that reach out to me or James and talk about this, mention the podcast, just mention it. You don't have to, we're not going to quiz you. I'm not going to quiz you. I'm going to send you a book now, but I'll put you on the waiting list. We'll figure out, and I want to send you his book because you need to learn more about the Ho'oponopono prayer, what it really is about, because all this that we talked about in the show, that's one of the tools. I call it a tool, but it's not the wrong thing, a tool you can use. And I pulled it up at times and it's literally, I think, saved my life. So I appreciate you. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If James has one, do you have a YouTube channel, James?
I don't, but you can go to my website, which is www.jameskawainui.com, and Instagram and Facebook. So
there, it's all there. But why to subscribe? If you're listening to this podcast like I am, and you're just feeling calm. I'm usually screaming and yelling right now. I don't scream and yell, but a lot louder. But he just calms me down. Go and share with somebody. Have them listen to James for 10 or 15 minutes. And you can take me out of it, but just listen to James. Because this calmness is needed so much right now, more than, even COVID and World War II and 2008. I think this year is going to be a turning point. We need to be more calm, and you do that so well, James.
We have to come from this place where we're clear and we're coming from, like you said, from the heart-centered place. Really,
it's beautiful.
That's a change. That is a change.
Well, he finished it off perfectly. So with that being said, me and James want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm going to follow James and say, aloha.
Aloha.